We are live. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. If you are joining us on Facebook or LinkedIn or our own website or the Pony Express or however you got here, it doesn't matter. But thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. My name is Terry Dorman. I'm one of the co-hosts from Litify. Dove Slansky, our solution and VP of Solution. I don't know what the hell your title is, Dove. Something like that. VP of Good Stuff are the co-hosts today. Chad Van Horn of the Van Horn Law Group has joined us out of Fort Lauderdale. Chad, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your partnership with Litify, and we're really happy to have you on and learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing and your sort of take on things as they stand right now. So appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Excellent, cool. So just kind of a softball question just to warm us up here. Just, maybe just give us a little bit about you, your firm, what you guys are doing, what you're seeing out there in the marketplace, and we'll go from there.
Certainly. So Chad Van Horn, bankruptcy attorney, specifically certified in business and consumer bankruptcy. I have been doing this for just over 11 years at this point. When I got out of law school, bankruptcy and foreclosures was everything that was around because that was the last crisis that we've gone through. So this will be my second crisis. The business is starting to pick up, unfortunately, actually, because of COVID. And just really love helping people, helping individuals, helping consumers, and helping small businesses work through their financial issues.
Chad, I think you and I got out of law school at the same time, but obviously you did better than I did because you're actually a lawyer.
I would say that you actually were the smart one. You got out of the rat race.
Excellent, cool. So, why bankruptcy law? Like, what kind of steered you in this direction? And maybe just give us a little bit of color on that.
Certainly. So I always knew that I wanted to help individuals and help small business owners. The reason I went to law school was for that reason. I thought I'd do it more in a financial planning, entrepreneurship, helping guide them through the process. But then when I was in law school, my last year, I ended up clerking for a bankruptcy attorney. And that's when everybody in Florida seemed like they were in foreclosures, losing their houses, losing their businesses. And I really enjoyed helping people through those issues. And I've just stuck with it now for 11 years, and I don't think I'm ever going back.
Cool. Yeah, no, you're doing a great service. I was thinking about that because even in my own family, there's certain things like you don't talk about. Like you don't talk about like money. You don't talk about wills and like it just certain things seem to be kind of verboten topics. So, and you're squarely in the middle of that, and it's just interesting. These clients are going through something that they never done. I would think for the most part, never happened before, and hopefully never happen again. Tell us a little bit about that because they're very fragile and very, very weird space for themselves. So what do you see when that, in that context?
Well, I've had many strange encounters over 11 years where family members, even husband, wife, they don't know the other person is in debt or the extent of the debt. One of the number one reasons for divorce is debt issues. People don't like talking about debt issues. People don't want to have debt issues, but it's something that I think is becoming more acceptable to talk about in public because we had the last financial crisis where tons of people were filing bankruptcy. Now with COVID, businesses are just being shut down for months at a time, no revenue coming in. So it's hard to blame a business owner or an individual that may have to explore their bankruptcy issues. And that's why I'm writing another book about another casualty of COVID-19 is the stigma of bankruptcy, because I don't think moving forward, people are going to be judged on, hey, I had to file bankruptcy because of COVID-19, because there's just going to be many people that are going to have to do that.
You raise an interesting point. Sorry, Doe, about one other question on that topic. But it's funny because you see a lot of these campaigns out in public around let's talk about mental illness. Let's talk about these things that just traditionally were signs of weakness. And it's a good thing. I think it just as a society, we're progressing in that way where, it's not embarrassing. This things happen, particularly when you're saying, COVID, perfect example. Yeah, these are things you just cannot control. Like, if you're a barber shop and you can't cut hair for 4 months, what are you going to do? Anyway.
Yeah, and like you said, if you just can't have income coming in, it's illegal for you to make money, basically. Yeah. What are you going to do? And the governor down here just extended the moratorium for foreclosures, evictions 1 more month. So as soon as that moratorium ends, I mean, there's going to be tons of people that are trying to work with their landlords. Their landlords might be in bankruptcy. I mean, yeah, I think we're not going to feel the full effects of this crisis until 2021.
Agreed. Yeah, we're a lot of our clients are in personal injury and areas like that, and they don't necessarily see a slowdown now because they're still working on the cases they've had. However, just people aren't on the road. People are not slipping and falling at work. There's just not going to be a ton of litigation. So people are preparing for it. Side note, quick plug for Litify. It's an awesome time to look at your systems and figure out what's going on. We're also seeing a lot of that too, frankly. We're busier than ever.
That's what I'm doing.
Thank you for that, Chad.
Of course.
Chad, I was going to say another interesting fallout of some of the bankruptcy stuff. You mentioned like for COVID, right? It's removing some of the stigma. I speak about this personally, right? I went to law school and I walked out tremendous amount in debt, right? It's one of those. It's one of those things where I think the push for higher education has been relentless over the last number of years, and it's coming to a head. And I think now that the economy is shrinking somewhat, well, the stock market would tell you otherwise, of course, but now the economy is somewhat at least slowed down, there's going to be a lot of people that are out there looking around who invested in themselves the way they were taught to for all those years, and are looking around going, well, I don't do with myself now. What do? I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt at crazy interest rates. How do I pay this off? So I wonder if we're going to see sort of a second wave of a crisis built on the back of that.
So potentially, and I think
you can't file bankruptcy for student loans. So
well, you can in certain circumstances. I think on the back end of this, you're going to see a couple things. First, I think you're going to see colleges fail. So I think you're going to see many colleges that don't have the endowment, especially if this leaks into the fall. People are not going to pay top dollar to do online classes like we're teaching right now. And second, with the federal student loans, if you're in an income-driven repayment plan, you still can qualify for loan forgiveness that way, and the payment can be $0 a month. So what I'm seeing on the private end, and this is a brand new thing as of yesterday, the private loans are actually selling to third parties for the first time that I've seen. There used to be somebody called National Collegiate Trust, which was an aggregator that would take all the private student loans. And they modeled it after the last foreclosure crisis, where they would sell it off on Wall Street and sell shares of it. And if you watch the movie The Big Short, you can learn all about that. But it's the same formula, but now they're selling to more companies the private student loans. So the private student loans, I think, are going to take a big hit. With the federal student loans, I think there's going to be some help there.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Breaking news as of yesterday.
As of yesterday.
Tune in here to learn it first.
We touched on technology quickly there, Chad, but I'd love to just drill into that a little bit more. Like, in our conversations, it's clear that you've embraced technology sort of from the inception of your firm till now. I'd like to understand sort of how do you think about that? And clearly we're guilty. We're a technology company and we're guilty of it ourselves. We almost over engineer things sometimes. So like, how do you kind of strike that balance of let's figure this out and then figure out how we can really sort of take what we have, make it better, systematize it, like just that sort of approach you guys have?
Absolutely. So when I first started, there's a lot of competition for law services just in general. There's a lot of attorneys out there, over 100,000 attorneys in Florida. So when I first came out, I had to think, why would I hire myself if I were filing bankruptcy? And I couldn't really find any good answers immediately other than, I'll work real hard, I'll try. Because I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the same experience as people that have been practicing for decades. So I had to figure out ways to differentiate myself from the firms because I couldn't beat them on experience back then, at least. So I had to figure out a way to attract new clients. So the first thing that I did was I started putting systems in place, and it was really customer service focused because the number one complaint about attorneys, I can't talk to my attorney never tells me what's going on, the communication's not there. So I said, well, how can I use technology to help with that? One example, in every bankruptcy case, there's a 341 meeting of creditors that the client has to show up and go to. Now, we, generally speaking, had the client show up, but it wasn't always at 100%. And they said, well, we didn't get the notice that you mailed us. So instead of mailing the notice, we would mail and email. Well, I didn't check my email. I didn't check my mail. So then we'd mail, email, call. well, I don't have my voicemail set up and I don't answer numbers that aren't in my phone. So then I got to the point where through technology, from the 341 calendar event, I had an automatic text message sent a week before, 3 days before, and a day before their meeting. And then all of a sudden we have 100% show up rate at that point. So I integrated many of those different things using technology, and also, especially going back to 2009, 2010, started doing online marketing, which now is the #1 platform for marketing.
Right. Yeah, the interesting part, I mean, it's the world that we live in. Obviously, Dove was integral in creating our system and talking about like automating process and putting built-in reminders. It's funny, we go into a lot of firms and we have this discussion with them and we say, listen, before we even discuss technology, let's talk a little bit about process. Like what, two things. Well, how you're doing it today, and in a perfect world, how would you do it? And that many times kind of just sparks this, I call it spring cleaning, but it's a bit of like looking inward and saying, all right, what can we get rid of? What should we kind of put over here? And what should we put over there? And what should we, buy 10 more of? Like, cause that's, that's a big part of the process. And I always tell, and I would even say this to our competitors out there, like have the behavioral discussion first. Because I could sell you the greatest piece of software on the planet, but if you're not even thinking about it in the right context, and what's the point?
Yeah, Chad, you touched on this yesterday when we were sort of prepping for this, right? I'll let you sort of go through your methodology, but you touched on how you approach that. It's not, the answer might end up being technology, but it can't be that you start with the technology.
Absolutely. And to follow up on that, I created a manual process where I have customer service people that are calling the clients throughout, because sometimes attorneys, they think that the hearing went great, but they're not great at explaining that to the client because they don't know what the judge, the trustee, they might not understand the language. So to have more of a layperson reach out to the client and say, hey, I heard everything went great. Is there anything you didn't understand? Is there any other explanations I can get for you? Because as you said, sometimes technology can create more questions and more issues. And to give another example, every month I send a newsletter out to my client, and on the top of the newsletter it says, reply to this email if you have any questions. It goes directly to me. And when we first put that together, I said, this is a brilliant idea because it's going to bring any issues to me earlier and I want to take care of them. But I'm hoping I don't have 9 million email responses. So, and obviously the first month we got the most responses, and then month after month it tails off. And we still get some responses, but at least that's another point of contact. And I'd rather have somebody, if they're upset or if they need something, an easy way to just reply to an email and say, hey, Chad, I'm not happy about this, or I need a copy of that, instead of just keeping it to themselves and being upset.
We hear a lot about that from firms who we talk to, firms who ask us for, and like Terry mentioned, I'll often go through with them when we're going through a solutioning exercise. We'll often say, well, tell me, I like to drill into what actually is the problem you're facing. The problem is not that, it's not that you have unhappy clients. That's not the problem. The problem is that you're not communicating with them. Okay, and you've tried to communicate with them, but what is deficient in that communication? Just simply throwing emails at people is not communication, right? Because in some respects, you don't always want to send that email, right? An email is only valid if it's only helpful, I should say, if it contains information that someone wants to read. But emails, just for the sake of saying you communicate, are noise and actually creates more questions, because you know what happens? Your clients learn to ignore your emails, and then they go right back to picking up the phone and calling you, or keeping the issues to themselves and remaining unhappy. So, and particularly in your line of work, right? It's much more fragile. At least from where I'm coming from, even as an attorney, everybody kind of knows what happens when you're in a car accident, right? Everybody kind of knows the process to go through. Most people haven't filed bankruptcy, and even if they know someone who has, it wasn't like they sat down around a cup of coffee and discussed the bankruptcy process. They just don't know. So the more that, I love the way you approach it, where it's not just communication, but actually understanding what is helpful in that communication really helps someone through an inordinately difficult time.
Absolutely. And I'll never forget, I had a client that came in one time, and there's multiple chapters of bankruptcy. There's chapter 7, there's chapter 11, chapter 13, chapter 12, 9, 15. And I had a client that came in and they said, I want to file a chapter 10. There is no chapter 10, right? So I said, so where did you hear about this chapter 10? They said, I got an email from an attorney about this new chapter 10. It's perfect for me. So I said, well, show me the email. And it was an email from an attorney that doesn't practice bankruptcy law that was talking about some new Chapter 10 bankruptcy. And I guess I'm not a great salesman because I couldn't convince this person that there was no Chapter 10. And she was like, well, if you won't file it for me, I'm going to find somebody that will. I said, okay. Good luck.
Hopefully not a Litify client.
Exhibit A of ineffective communication.
Exactly. Yeah, just because then you create more issues for yourself with ineffective communication, for sure.
On that angle, Chad, one of the things that I know that we also talked a bit about was, yes, technology, yes, creating that communication, yes, having valid information, but how do you keep it from being impersonal? Meaning it can't just be all text. You have to have some type of relationship. So tell us a little bit about like that and how you sort of maintain, that level of, because you want to feel like you're in good hands, and not that you need to become best friends with your clients, but they want a friendly can get in your line of work type of interactions. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I have a great example coming up. So July 4th is coming up. We're off July 3rd. And we usually work Saturdays as well. So we're off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back into the office Monday. So tomorrow, before everybody leaves the office, every person in my office, I have about 30 something people, has to call 10 clients and just wish them a happy 4th of July. And they can pick any 10 clients and they say, hey, just calling you to wish you a happy 4th of July, because so many times we just get used to calling people with news. Hey, I got good news. I got bad news. I have news. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. And I could imagine a client like, man, I don't want to answer that phone because they're going to ask me for more documents. Or, man, is it going to be good news? Is it going to be bad news? And then for you to say, hey, I have some good news for you. I'm just wishing you a happy 4th. I hope everything's good. Something that we're going to do with Litify that we do manually right now is at the end, after a client gets a discharge, we send them a nice email. It's an automated email that we have to put in a Starbucks gift card code saying, hey, you deserve a cup of coffee on us after going through that. So really, it's coming up with those little things. And I know it's somewhat cliche, but those little things do matter. And I learned at a conference that I went to, you're not just looking for a happy client. You're looking for that client that's like screaming from the rooftop, hey, if you have any debt issues, you need to talk to Van Horn Law Group. I have clients that before they'll sign a lease for a car, before they'll sign a lease at the dry cleaners or a dry cleaner agreement, they'll email me like, hey, can you review this real quick? And it takes me 2 minutes, and I always write back, nice to hear from you. If you ever need anything, let me know. And it's such a nice feeling instead of, okay, that's 0.2, I'm going to bill them $70, or that's 0.5, to the clients where they feel that they have an attorney in their family where they can just run things by me.
Terry, something you talk about here at Litify all the time, right? Having those happy clients that shout from the rooftops for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had this discussion with a client who we just signed yesterday. Side shout out to Sherry Swanson on the sales team. She did a great job. But a law firm that, I spoke to the guy and I was saying, we were just talking about sort of advertising. And I said, you've seen all the Litify ads on the Super Bowl and every law journal you pick up. And he's like, huh? I go, no, I'm kidding. We don't do that. I said, for me, I'd way rather, and this has been our philosophy since the beginning, and we do some obviously outreach and even this event we're doing right now, we're going to get this message out to our clients and our prospects. But it was more about like, I'd really much rather take that budget and put it into customer service and customer success and have them, have an extra resource available to do that. And I think it's brilliant, Chad, by the way, just that sort of personal touch. And it's amazing what again, I guess I'm sure someone going through a rough time, just that one phone call might literally brighten their entire weekend where it's like, all right, okay, I feel like someone's got my back. I feel like I'm working with an organization that understands me. I think it's a brilliant move.
By the way, bringing it around to technology, you mentioned, right, send that automated email with the Starbucks gift card. One thing that I've actually started to see a lot more of recently on the technology front are companies that focus on surveys and reputation management, right? So not just, it used to be this thing like, are you afraid someone's saying something bad about you on the internet? Hire us and we'll find it. It's now shifted. The narrative has shifted where companies are focused proactively. They want to make sure that they're not just that their reputation is good, but what can they do to ensure that before it gets to that point, they're dealing with their customers properly. So I'm seeing a lot more technology companies focused on surveys, net promoter scores, and just really making it easy to track how you're working with your customers. And I'm also seeing a lot more companies that are in sort of the gift sending space. You wouldn't believe it, but there's a tremendous amount out there that have hooks into technology like Litify, where you can automatically at some point in time send a gift to someone. It's something which I never dreamed of ever on the technology space. Like if I want to send a gift, I'm going to go and send a gift, right? Like why would I automate the sending of a gift? But when you sort of think about it and you extrapolate the natural reasons behind it, you can use that technology as, okay, if we have a process that states every time we discharge a customer discharges bankruptcy right from us, now we're done with it, can breathe a sigh of relief. I want to sort of send them off. It's why personal injury law firms will handle settlement checks in person, right? If you someone settle their personal injury case, they bring them into the office. It might be the only time they ever meet them in person, but they're going to do it when they hand them the check, right? Because it's a happy moment. So for you guys, same kind of thing. I'm now seeing the proliferation of technology companies that are helping people with their gift giving, right? If you want to send a gift or a token of appreciation to someone, you don't have to remember to do it. You know that you want to. Use technology to ensure that you actually do that last little nice thing for someone.
Absolutely. And actually, that reminds me of a fantastic story because we do the gift giving to our clients, but we also do it to opposing counsel sometimes that we work on cases with. And I'll never forget this one case, and he might even be watching this. So opposing counsel came in on my Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I'll make the long story short. My client needed like $60,000 to save their home. And he said, well, there's no way they're going to get this money together. There's no way they're going to get this money together. And I got a cashier's check, and I walked over to his office with it, and I brought a gift. And so I gave him the 60. He goes, how the hell did they get this money? Because they were retired people on Social Security. And I said, well, a famous rapper actually stepped up and is paying this. And I gave him a gift. It's an autographed microphone by that rapper, and it still sits in his office.
That's great.
And it's a case he'll never forget because there was no way these people were going to get the money, but this rapper stepped up to help save a home of 40 years. And now it's always sitting in his office. So every time I go to his office, I see it and I remember that case.
Cool.
Fantastic.
What I was thinking, Chad, you mentioned something there in passing, and I was curious for a little bit more on it. And maybe it's just drawing a distinction. And what I'm talking about is like, yeah, we can use technology or we can use process to kind of automate, but I guess how do you assess if a shortcut can also be damaging? Meaning, is it a shortcut for the sake of a shortcut, or is it like is it maybe some of it just sort of trial and error where you try something but then you realize maybe it does take that human contact out of the mix, or from a business perspective you can't really assess what's going on from a data standpoint? Like, I'm just curious how you're thinking about that.
So some of it is trial and error, but I think what a lot of customer service, not just lawyers, industries in general, they forget to reach out to the stakeholders. They forget to reach out to the people and really try to understand their perspective. One of the best advice I got is never put yourself in their shoes directly, like your mind, your way of thinking, because you may think a different way because you're an expert in this part, and they're looking at it where I don't know anything about this. So it's easy for me to skip from 1 to 100. But some clients, they need 1, 2, 3 all the way through. So what I personally try to do is I reach out to anywhere from the person that takes the first phone call. We actually record some of our lead phone calls so that we can help train. We reach out to the clients right after, ask them how we're doing with different surveys, as you brought up. Some of it is trial and error. Some things have worked great. One thing that I talked about that worked great was with the text messages. When I first started with the text messages, we sent like 20 of them that didn't work great because people were pissed off. They were getting so many texts from us. So then I was like, all right, so how many do you think would be reasonable in what time frame? And a couple clients were the ones to say, hey, the day before, week before, and then when it's first set. That's better than like every morning at 6 a.m. hearing a ding from my bankruptcy attorney. So it really is a healthy mixture of getting feedback, constructive feedback from anybody that's working either within your firm or your clients. We also do secret shoppers here, so I'll have friends of mine, buddies of mine call in and just to see from different perspectives what's working, what's not working. So, but unfortunately, a lot of it is trial and error. You just got to try new things, put the effort in, and then what works, like you said earlier, do it a dozen more times. Just keep doing it until you're overdoing it, then back off a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's important. In our talking to our clients, one of the biggest struggles that particularly managing partners and senior partners have is the balancing that time working on your firm versus in your firm. You hear it a lot, but it's such a struggle because, you just get busy. You got a lot of cases, you got a lot going on, you got, sort of personnel problems, but like really thinking about your firm and how to improve your overall experience. I got a question here from Jack T in New York. He's asking, I guess, it's sort of relating some of what we're talking about here to reviews, meaning like, because I know how do you get great reviews being a bankruptcy lawyer? Just to put it bluntly, Chad, how the hell do you do that?
That's a great question. So if you Google Van Horn Law Group right now, you're probably going to find about 300 plus 5-star reviews. And I always say we're always starting at 1 star because nobody's coming into the bankruptcy like, I'm really going to enjoy this. This is going to be a blast. Expecting it to be the best time of my life.
Right.
When you go to Disney World, when you go to a fancy restaurant, when you go to different places, you're starting off with a 5-star expectation, which that has other complications that may come with it. But yeah, we're starting at 1 star, and then we have to blow these people away through these different things. And then once they feel like, oh my gosh, okay, my life is much better now that I've been through this, and these people really did care about me. And we're not here to just process papers and hope something works. We really want to put a plan together and show you that, hey, this is the plan to get you to get rid of your debt and set you up for financial freedom. We're one of those firms too that we don't look at it as our job is to get you your discharge. We want to help you rebuild your financial life as well. So we're going to give you tips on how to rebuild your credit afterwards. And when we put information out there, we're not putting, it's kind of like what you guys do. We're not necessarily just putting information out there to say, hey, Van Horn Law Group's the best. Look how awesome we are over and over again. We're trying to put helpful information and say, hey, this might be helpful. I mean, it's not something that we do, but it's something another firm does. For example, we work with a company, 722redemption.com, which helps people get vehicles after they file bankruptcy and helps them get financing. I don't make any money off of them getting financing or anything like that, but it's really helpful for somebody that's like, I don't want to go to the buy here, pay here lot that's going to rip me off. I want to go to somebody that I can get a warranty with. So I think that's how you really get those 5-star reviews is you really got to take it to the next level. And then finally, you have to ask too. And at the beginning, it was kind of weird asking for reviews because I'm not much of a Yelper. There's probably some Yelpers on this call. I hate Yelping, and I'm not a big power Yelper fan. But in this day and age, the social proof is real, and you need it as a business. If somebody Googles you and nothing shows up, they're probably not going to work with you.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
And your communication is really key. I know that from the firms we work with, they always tell us the number one source of complaints for a law firm is my lawyer didn't call me back. Number one across the board. My lawyer didn't call me back. Paralegal, someone didn't call me back. So the attention that you pay, and it doesn't have to mean that you actually picked up the phone and called them back, right? What they're missing is they feel like they've trusted you with something, and they're not getting trust back. Right? I've trusted you with my personal injury case, my medical malpractice, my bankruptcy, whatever it is, and I'm expecting trust back. I'm trusting you to tell me that everything is going to be okay, right? That you're going to get my settlement, my doctor bills, discharge, and if I don't hear that everything's going to be okay, like you said, you're starting at 1 star. It's by telling them it's going to be okay, or just by telling them I don't know if it's going to be okay, but I'm working on it. Yep. Just simply by communicating that to them. That each time you do that is another way up to that next star. We hear from all of our customers who tell us, how do I fix its number one source of complaints? It's not magic. I mean, our software can help you, right? You can put automated processes in place to remind you and do these things. But at the end of the day, you got to actually have the business process set up that says at some point in time, you're going to pick up the phone, speak to a client, send them an email. The automated touches along the way only help so much. And I think that's the difference between your reviews and other people's reviews is that you've actually set those processes up so that you have a way to communicate that trust back to them.
And I remember the first time that I put my cell phone number in my email, and it says if you have any issues, feel free to send me a text or contact me on my cell. Once again, trial and error. I was like, this could really blow up in my face, or this could be okay. And it ended up being great because for clients that really needed to get in touch with me, they felt like they can get in touch with me at any time and directly to my personal cell phone. But a lot of the clients, they respect your time as well. And the added benefit, and I didn't even think of this, when a client really got upset, I can say, whoa, okay, let's relax. Like, this is the first time you're bringing this to me, and I've had multiple contacts with you. Maybe I didn't pick up the phone and call, but I had this email, I had this message to you. I said, if you have any issues, reach out to me, and you didn't do it. So I'm sorry that you're upset, and I'm going to fix it. But in the future, just reach out to me. I'm easy to get in touch with, and give me the opportunity to fix it before you go on Yelp and leave me a 1-star review.
I've heard it from other law firms. They encourage their attorneys to print their cell phone numbers in their business cards, and the ones that do are the ones that consistently get better reviews for the firm. They earn more in fees. The ones that don't, they feel like they have to protect themselves. But the reality is, most clients are not going to call you on your cell phone day and night. They just the fact that you're willing to share that with them, they appreciate that, and they'll hold it when it's important. They will reach out and use it.
Yeah. Sure. Rewinding a little bit, and just in the spirit of riffing off a topic, I had an interesting discussion the other night, and the topic really being sort of ancillary services that I think are more becoming expected. Like you mentioned that you'll help somebody sort of get credit to get back on their feet with a car and things like that. And that's not necessarily in your job description, but it's just a great add-on. So I was talking to my daughter, who just recently graduated from University of Tampa. Go Spartans!
Nice.
They have money and all that now. But she graduated with a degree in media and advertising and a minor in art therapy. So we were just kind of spitballing ideas of like what you could do with that. And I was thinking about it in the context of law firms and clients of ours. And I was like, what if and clearly you could argue, and most of her the minor part of her degree was for like war veterans or victims of accidents and things like that. But you could argue, like, someone going through a bankruptcy, that's some pretty heavy PTSD. They're going to get out of that. Now, there's varying degrees, of course. I mean, there may not be a physical element to it, but certainly mental anguish, and certainly, the psychological drama that comes up with that. So we were thinking about, like, even just making programs available to people. Like, they may not even know that their county has a program that utilizes art or whatever to sort of help someone through a process. I think we're going to see more and more of that, particularly with this COVID stuff. I think we're going to see a lot more of just sort of that ask or that need for businesses to think a bit outside the box and at least point their clients to directions where they can get additional help. So, me off my soapbox. When you mentioned that, Chad, it clicked for me. I was like, that's actually very interesting, because you constantly got to be thinking about that.
Well, once a month, and part of the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do is, when I was a law clerk, we had a client that committed suicide. And once a month, I'm talking to somebody that admits to me in confidence that they have even tried to commit suicide. I had one client that tried to commit suicide 3 times, and their parents said, "You're such a failure, you can't even commit suicide correctly."
Wow.
So, I'm not necessarily built to deal with those issues, but sometimes they just need somebody that acts like they care.
Sure.
And that may set up a resource, like you're saying, and say, and check in on them, saying, "Hey, how you feeling today? Did you go to that therapy? Did you check this website out? Did you hear about this good news?" And sometimes that clicks for them, and that changes them into a positive direction. I deal with multiple charities as well, where we're really trying to get the financial advice out there so that I could put myself out of business one day. I know that's not going to happen because there's so many financial crises and whatnot. Yeah. But the more financial literacy that gets out there, I think the better it is for everybody.
Sure. Every Liticast episode, and Dove will laugh, I say this all the time. Like, I try to avoid COVID, and I try to avoid plug for Litify. I think we did both of them already in the show. But just one other thing, just on the COVID, I was just curious your thoughts. I mean, clearly there's going to be a lot of sort of financial pressures and such. But what do you see sort of on the other side of this? God willing, there is another side to this within a few months, where there's either a vaccine or something, like some advancements. But from the behavior that we're doing now, remote work, video work, like we're doing now, what do you think stays? What do you think goes? What do you think maybe in your field specifically is going to be a lasting impact of what we're facing right now? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So before COVID hit, the United States was at the highest debt levels in the history of the United States. So highest mortgage debt, highest student loan debt, credit card debt, automobile debt. So there was a correction coming, whatever you want to call it, correction, recession, depression, whatever it was. Now, with 4 months of not working, it's obviously going to get worse, but when is it going to get worse? So in Florida, at least, there's going to be a foreclosure crisis that hits, and I would guess in 2021, and an eviction crisis that's going to happen sooner than that. What I'm seeing in now are restaurants are just closing down left and right. So you're probably going to see 50% of restaurants fail unless the landlords truly will forgive rent or work with them somehow. In Fort Lauderdale, it's just been awful down here. So I'm seeing some of my favorite restaurants that have been there for 10 years, 20 years go under. And I know that's happening throughout the country. But we needed a correction anyway as far as debt. We just had too much debt and we were overextending ourselves before this. Now, what I think you're going to see is twofold. One, when everything opens back up, which is hopefully sooner than later. I mean, football season's coming up, and we got to make sure we at least preserve that. But in all seriousness, I mean, we need to be able to feel free to go out and not have to worry about this crazy spread. But what we're going to see, people are going to try to go back to their jobs and realize the jobs aren't there anymore. That the owners of the businesses have found ways to automate or found ways to replace that. Or they're going to find that the business isn't there that they were working for before. So you're still going to see a high unemployment rate. Mm-hmm. And for the commercial landlords, I think there's going to be a ton of space out there because some businesses are going to say, well, I'm used to now Zoom meetings. I'm used to people working from home, so I don't need as much office space, or I don't need as much space. So there's going to be many transformations over the next, I would say, 18 months that you're going to see.
Yeah, we've had some pretty lively debates on this show, in fact, about virtual trials, Zoom trials, Zoom juries. There's a couple camps. We have the camps of like we had Keith Mitnick on, pretty established. He'll make fun of me for that one, but a trial attorney. But he was like, no, it's the pageantry of being there in person. It's the sort of the impact, the human impact, looking across the room, seeing someone. He's like that. You're never going to replace that. And then I had other people on that were just like, yeah, no, we're good. Like we're good. We can kind of get body language and everything on via a Zoom call. Then literally after one of those episodes, like 2 days later, there was that video from Texas that came out that it was a Zoom jury, and the guy just left to like go pick up his phone or something. Like it was in the middle of like opening statements or something. The guy just up and left. So you're obviously going to have issues, but it's going to be very interesting to see. I agree with you. I think there's going to be the next 18 months, 2 years, and probably even beyond. Some of the things that we experienced this. And it was funny, my total side note, but like my kids were asking me, they were reading something in school. They're like, Dad, do you remember doing nuclear tests when you were a kid? And like, I'm 47. So I do. I remember like in kindergarten or whatever it was where like it was going to matter. We had to get under our desks if a nuclear bomb hit. They closed the shades and we got under the desk. Like
I remember doing that too in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, North Jersey. And we totally did it. And I was like, I was thinking, I'm like, this is kind of your code. It's different, I guess, but it was like that. These memories for kids who are in, like Dove has kids that age. They're going to remember this. They're going to remember like this whole thing, and God willing, it's all behind us. And there's, it's just one of those things that it's almost like it's something you kind of coalesce around, but at the same time you want to forget it. Like I'm
in the second camp. I just want to delete 2020. Delete it from the history books. Like other than I got married and I love my wife and it was a great wedding and we were able to make our honeymoon. But after mid-March, let's just reset it. Let's go to 2021.
I think it's going to be a tremendous technology accelerant. Terry, you mentioned, right? I don't remember doing technology drills, doing nuclear drills. I'm sorry. I'm only 36. I don't remember doing nuclear drills.
Baby.
But my kids, for example, I was talking the other day, and I said, by the way, someday you're going to grow up, you have kids of your own, and they're going to complain about going to school, and you are going to tell them how you are dying to go back to school, how you wish you had school. But at the same time, I think there's a massive technology accelerant. My kids are not immune to it, but the fact that they're able to attend school on Zoom and they have a laptop that they could sit at and they could do work and they could talk to their friends, there's something that has been changed. And it's not just in our personal lives. I think in our business lives, there's going to be a fundamental change. And I think, Chad, you're right. Over the next 18 months, we're going to see people who are going to continue to adopt technology. In the past, it was for small ways, conveniences. But I think now it's really, it's odd in 2020 to say it's here to stay. But for the legal industry, perhaps this is the moment where it's here to stay. And, you know, people have been resistant for so long. And right now they're looking around going, well, it's here.
Well, actually, you just reminded me of another story talking about the pageantry of court and whatnot. I remember right before COVID, we had a hearing and everything was agreed to, but it was the first hearing in a case. And it's in front of a judge that I appear in front of regularly. And I appeared telephonically, which is allowed by the rules. And especially because it was just like pre-COVID, we weren't sure what was going on. I was like, I'm not going to go to court. Opposing counsel sends me an email, and he's an older guy. He's like, you know, that's so disrespectful to the court to not show up for the first hearing. You got to do this. And then the next day, the court shut down and said, we're doing all telephonic hearings. And I think that's going to be a change in mindset. Like, it's not really disrespectful to the court. I wasn't trying to disrespect the court. It's just that, you know, I'm worried about my health, and it's a more efficient process to just do it by the phone. Everything's agreed. There's no evidence. I don't have to be there and with my white wig on and my. So,
I'd like to see that though when you have a chance.
That'll be the next video. but yeah, I think there's just gonna be a change in mindset. Like, you know what? The world didn't fall apart because Chad Van Horn didn't show up in court today and he did it over phone. And the federal system's been doing that for a long time. So I think that there's going to be more people out of necessity that we're figuring out ways to make this work.
Sure. So we're kind of coming at the end of our time, Chad. But just a couple quick things. A lot of comments are coming in for our feed, you know, that are very complimentary towards your group. I'll kind of double down on that. Your team has been phenomenal to work with.
No, I want you to read all those.
Some of them are probably like your brother, your mom, and group's the best. No, that's awesome, and it's always a great testament to see that when people, you know, take the time to give you comments. But again, you guys have been great to work with, and I really appreciate that. We have, we love investing in our clients who are investing in us, and your team's been really great for that. And for the, sorry, go ahead, Doug. Oh, sorry, I didn't echo. My bad. What I was going to just say to the audience, you know, please continue to follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to us on YouTube. Come to us, find us, go to our website. We have more events coming up next week, more episodes coming up next week that are sure to impress. We actually have a pretty packed schedule all the way through, I think, through most of July. I think we're actually booking episodes for August at this point, which is great. And the other thing that's great too is that people are writing in around topics they want to hear about. You know, everything from marketing to different practice areas to, dealing with clients to technology to whatever. So I would encourage everybody to do that as well. Let us know what you want to hear more about. We'll get great guests like Chad on to share their experience and their expertise in this way. So, Chad, any parting thoughts?
That's it, man. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. I look forward to building this relationship. Thanks again for having me on. I hope it was helpful. So thanks again.
It was very much, Chad. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. And thanks for our audience for listening in. Thank you, Doe, for co-hosting today. Appreciate it. And you all have a great 4th of July weekend. God bless America. Talk to y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.